But hey, things are looking up. I know there's a lot of concern and worry with Michael Hawkins Jr. taking over at quarterback for the foreseeable future, at least until John Mateer is available. But listen, guys, this is a different quarterback than Oklahoma is going to be getting than he was last year. We'll talk about it coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Michael Hawkins Jr. takes over at quarterback for the bye week for Kent State. Brent Venables has already named him as the starter. And depending on John Mateer's recovery, his rehabilitation, his timeline, Michael Hawkins Jr. could be making his second straight start in the Red River Showdown. So let's ask the question, OJ. Is Michael Hawkins ready to take over at quarterback?
I feel like he is. I think this is the perfect spot to play him, especially because the difference between this year and last year, and as we talked about last segment, wide receiver health and pass protection. So went through, looked at it. PFF has us rated on the pass blocking. We are a top 35 team in the country in pass blocking grades. And the pass pro has been really good. Like, as much as, we want to complain about things, there's not much to complain about on that side. Not only is Jake Michael, Fabechi Wewu, and most of your big hikers, Derek Simmons, they've all grade in the 70s and the plus, with Wewu and Michael in the 80s, mid 80s, mid to late 80s. So, really it really is. That's actually really good. That's NFL caliber grading is what that is. And so I take a lot of them with a grain of salt. I've told y'all this before on their grades or whatnot, but just the fact that they've done a really good job of preventing pressures and done a really good job of making sure that Mateer wasn't running for his life. Like, you had some plays where just the defense schemed up some stuff. You're never going to be 100%. That's why none of these grades are ever 99, 95, 98, 99 when it comes to that, because it's tough. Yeah. No matter what you do, some blitz schemes and concepts are going to do that. But the good thing is that, they've only given up roughly about 37 pressures, and a lot of that's been in garbage time. So we've done well in the protection. And so to me, that's what's going to make Michael Hawkins ready. He's been going up against one of the best, if not the best, defensive lines in college football right now. And because of that, he's now understanding how to get rid of the ball quickly. He's understanding moving around the pocket, or when the pocket shifts, he knows how to follow it. And so to me, I think that he'll be ready for this one.
Well, I think it just starts a lot with Ben Arbuckle and John Kuceyeski. You've got two guys who have developed quarterbacks. They're guys that were at Western Kentucky and took a Bailey Zappi and put him into the NFL from Western Kentucky. You took a guy from Incarnate Word and Cam Ward, and in a couple seasons turned him into a Heisman front runner and the number one overall pick. Even though he finished his career at Miami, a lot of the foundational stuff was done with Ben Arbuckle and John Kuceyeski. And we've seen him take three-star quarterback John Mateer, who had just one Power 4 offer from Washington State. That dude was heading to Arkansas State?
Central Arkansas.
Okay. Central Arkansas before Ben Arbuckle and John Kuceyeski showed up at his door, metaphorically speaking. And then it turned him into one of the better quarterbacks in college football. In some people's estimations, the best quarterback in college football. So that's, to me, where it starts. Michael Hawkins has spent the last 9 months learning, being developed by, being built up by, being encouraged by Ben Arbuckle and John Kuceyeski, who have a track record for providing and developing really good quarterback play and really good offenses. So to me, that's where it starts. I'm excited to see where Michael Hawkins has grown, because this is going to be a different quarterback. Aside from everything else around him that's completely different than what it was a year ago when he had to play as a true freshman, mind you, he's going to be a different quarterback.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think a lot of us aren't seeing, and I get that a lot of people are concerned because of the Temple, the end of that game, and kind of how that went. Totally understand that. It wasn't the best showing in the first game. It looked like he was kind of cold and getting going, but now that he knows it's his show, she's going to go out there and he should be a completely different type of player. We'll learn Kent State, if anything, and that's the perfect game. Because remember, and I think you mentioned this before as well, but I've been hearing this also go around, which is the perfect statement. We didn't have a warm-up game for Michael Hawkins last year.
No.
Game one, he got in the second half of the Tennessee game, which honestly is not a warm-up game, nope. Was his warm-up. And then he goes out there and travels to Auburn. My goodness. And it was mainly because, like I mentioned before, we were so quote-unquote inept on offense last season, even in those first three games against Temple with a blowout win, Houston with a very narrowly getting out win, and then Tulane, which the score really doesn't reflect how dominant the Sooners were. You didn't play with the dominance that you should have. And so Hawkins didn't get that real tune-up. Now he gets a full game against a team that is really bad. Like, nothing against them, but all against them, 100% shade. They're not a good team.
Not good.
Florida State put up, 700 yards of total offense on them last week. 770-something yards. Gavin Sawchuk, shout out to our old friend, I think he had almost 200 yards rushing in that game. Like, if there's anything that should happen here is Hawkins should have a lot of pressure taken off his back because the running game should get figured out. And we'll talk about this in the next segment, but I have a lot of expectations on who's going to play and how that's going to help us with being able to be quote-unquote prepared for this one. There's a lot that we got to do. Let's just put it that way, John. And as long as we do what we're supposed to, I think we're going to be fine.
You know, in that Temple game just a couple weeks ago, Michael Hawkins just had some heat check moments. You know, it's like, hey, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to throw the ball as far as I can throw the ball. And were they great throws? No, they were not. But that wasn't running the offense. That wasn't,
right,
leading Oklahoma's offense. It was just, screw it. Let's just chunk the ball down there and just see what happens. And they were able to draw a pass interference call on one of those. So to me, that is a positive when you're able to draw a pass interference call because Elijah Thomas is getting hung on to by the Temple defender. That's a win for your quarterback. I don't care that the throw didn't turn out to be great. It's a win for your quarterback. But he looked good running the ball. And that's the thing that's going to be very different with Michael Hawkins Jr. versus John Mateer. Now, John Mateer, power runner, is able to make a lot happen with his legs. He's got good agility, good speed. Michael Hawkins, he is different, though.
He is.
He is fast with the ball in his hands. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see how Ben Arbuckle uses that and opens that up a little bit. But again, this is a totally different team than what he played with last year. You mentioned the Tennessee game. Tennessee was one of the best defenses in college football last year.
It really
Auburn was a really solid defense at different times of last season. They had a lot of good defenders. They're still on that team. We saw a lot of those guys this past weekend as well. Texas, one of the best defenses in college football last year. South Carolina, one of the best defenses in college football last year. Those were the games that Michael Hawkins Jr. got his first taste of college football action. Obviously, it was not going to go well for a true freshman on an offense that was battered, bruised, beaten with all of those injuries. It just wasn't a great situation for any quarterback. It wasn't for Jackson Arnold. It wasn't for Michael Hawkins Jr. It wouldn't have been for Dylan Gabriel or Baker Mayfield or the second coming of the Messiah. It would not have been a good situation for anybody to try to quarterback in. So, take anything that you saw last year with a grain of salt. Even the Navy game, when they were playing with a group that was, again, a lot of guys transferred out before that game. A lot of guys were sitting out because of the NFL draft. It wasn't this team. This team is a completely different team. You mentioned it from a pass protection standpoint. They're a much better pass pro team than they were last year when they couldn't block anybody. Remember the Ole Miss game where Oklahoma's offensive line allowed the most sacks ever in that game? Remember against South Carolina when we're trying to block Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart with our tight ends who weren't very good to begin with? Like, that was the offense in which Michael Hawkins Jr. and Jackson Arnold were trying to function, and it was terrible.
It was really bad.
Let's not extrapolate a true freshman's first experience at the college football level and believe that that's the same cat that you're going to see this year. Let's give him an opportunity to go and show that he's developed, that he's a better player than what he showed last year, and that he's in a more functional offense than what he was last year. Let's just give it a chance. Like Future said in 8 Mile, give a man a chance. Give a man a chance. And that's all I got to say. And we're still riding with the Sooners. A lot of national analysts are as well. We'll discuss that coming up on Locked On Sooners.